All right, so we've had a lot of Xbox leaks recently. We had the 2026 schedule leak. Taking a look at that, we saw that hardware aside, Xbox is set up to have a pretty exciting 2026 here. Now, we've known and seen a lot about this next-gen Xbox console, right? The latest rumor was that it was going to be arriving in 2027 alongside the PlayStation 6. Now, the rumor after that was then that PlayStation 6 would hold out until like 2028, maybe even 2029, because of just the long adoption rate of the PS5 and how they were leaning into the Portal and that sort of stuff. Like the ecosystem was going to last a lot longer this generation, which personally I am for. As a result, I feel like Xbox needs to get their hardware out as soon as possible because someone in the building is eventually going to look at the declining hardware revenue quarter after quarter, like it's going on 15 quarters now, and say to themselves, why are we investing so much resources in a thing that makes us no money when software is doing so well at Xbox? So that brings us to this article here. It's from Windows Central. It's by my boy, Jez Corden. And he says, the next Xbox is coming in 2027, and the strategy behind it is a bigger deal than people realize. I thought this was a really good report, as expected from Jez. You know, I know he gets a lot of flack on his like Twitter and his podcast comments, but when he locks in on his reports, I think the dude's got some really good stuff here. And so we get an idea here of what Xbox is targeting and sort of what they're thinking for their strategy, and also how we're going to negate some of the information that has recently come out for Xbox first-party stuff. So let's dive right into this. Jez writes, the next Xbox is starting to take shape, and new signals from Asus suggest Microsoft is targeting 2027 for its next major hardware push, and that lines up with what I reported last year. The idea is simple but bold. The next Xbox would run a TV-first console interface by default, but underneath, it's essentially a full Windows machine capable of running Xbox titles. Now, for them to get to that point, obviously Windows needs to get to a point where it's not as bad as it is right now. And that's the time squeeze that I think will ultimately delay the next Xbox. I don't think it comes out in 2027, not because Xbox isn't ready, but because Windows isn't ready. Windows is undergoing a lot of change right now. There's a lot of problems with it. You have like Linux breathing down its neck, SteamOS breathing down its neck. It's not a great time to be Windows. You know, it's the first time where I feel like the noise is actually tangible. So I think that is going to get in the way of any kind of 2027 vision. Also, the AI investment is still a little bit messy for Xbox. So keep that in mind too. The article continues on to say that AMD CEO Lisa Su hints at the Gen 10 launch window. After this, before this, we did see that there was a commitment between Cerebon and AMD for a partnership. Obviously, this is important to note because AMD would probably be in the know on what Xbox is doing because they directly announced that they are teaming up. And so what we have here via Tom's Hardware is, quote, development of Microsoft's next-gen Xbox featuring an AMD semi-custom SoC is progressing well to support a launch in 2027, said the AMD CEO, Lisa Su. So I feel like the person who's at the head of this company and is working on a hardware deal with Xbox would have a pretty good idea as to when this thing is coming out, right? And again, because PlayStation is pushed into 2028, 2029 even, this leaves Xbox with a chance to sort of launch their own hardware on their own and kind of define the generation for themselves. Continuing on here, it says AMD's internal code name for Xbox SoC is Magnus, our sources confirm, although that is not Microsoft's code name for the actual device itself. I've been reporting that for a while, that Microsoft's landing strip for the next-gen Xbox is indeed 2027, although I'm told Microsoft insiders were a little taken off guard by Lisa Su's comments on the Gen 10 Xbox timeline. Microsoft hasn't fully internally committed to the hard 2027 launch window of the next-gen Xbox, since so much of it hinges on improvements to Windows 11 and other factors. Microsoft Windows and Xbox teams are collaborating harder than ever to get the operating software into shape for a polished console-like experience on Xbox, and thus they aren't forcing themselves to adhere to a specific hard cutoff point. You can think of 2027 as a best-case scenario, but having a polished experience is the North Star for Xbox. So a little bit of what I was just saying there, which is that Windows is at the center of this all. And I just genuinely don't see a world where Windows is going to be ready at this time. But Xbox was taken a little bit off guard because AMD is seeing one thing, Xbox is thinking another. Xbox's plans are a little bit more in flux, but what's interesting here is they haven't really talked about the cost of making it yet. And of course, when we see how OpenAI has been gobbling up RAM, and that has changed the price market for not only what we have with RAM, but also GPUs, it's become a lot more problematic. So with that, we move on to this next segment of Jez's article. It says, what to expect about Xbox's next-gen cost here. He said there's a ton of rumors flying around about the potential price points, but the truth is Microsoft itself doesn't know how much the next Xbox will be. As Skill Up so eloquently put it, though, Xbox did threaten. I love how he worded it because it's so true. They did threaten with a premium experience, which we do have in this article right here. We see Jez say, it does sound like, though, that the next gen Xbox is pushing for a more premium experience from its first-party offering, but doesn't mean the Xbox will suddenly become inaccessible for those who can't justify the spend. So what that basically is saying there, and this was from Sarah Bond originally, is that next Xbox you should expect to be over $1,000. Tariffs, component costs, all this sort of stuff is going to play a factor into a highly priced device. As we talked about with the Steam machine, which we were supposed to already have information on its pricing, its release date now, things are so heavily in flux that you just can't trust any hardware to just drop, right? So this is another problem that Xbox is trying to go over. At the same time, Steam is doing the same thing, and we know PlayStation is doing the same thing, but it seems like the rumors for them, again, have more definitively suggested a delay for PlayStation because the adoption rate of the PS5 has been great. And I imagine PlayStation is going to invest a lot of money in producing a ton of PS5s and PS5 Pros this year because GTA 6 is going to come out this year and PS5 is going to be the dominant platform for that one, especially the PS5 Pro. I think PlayStation is going to go hard on PS5 Pro, market that thing and make that the GTA 6 machine. And that'll be totally fine for PlayStation because they'll make a lot of money. They'll increase their install base. And they can wait even longer for that PS6 to come around. There's, again, as we talked about, not a real heavy need, in my opinion, for a new generation of consoles. I feel like we're still getting warmed up here. Now, I did think that some of the insight here that Jez provided was interesting because he said, indeed, I'm told Microsoft expects the Gen 9 Series X and PS5 to have a longer tail than usual as a result of this broadening hardware endpoint ecosystem. It's only been recently that PS4 and Xbox One consoles have stopped seeing full complement of a major AAA game, with many service games still maintained on those older systems. So even if the Xbox's next-gen version comes in at $1,000 that some expect, Xbox Series S players shouldn't expect to be suddenly cut off and priced out. I like how this is presented. At the same time, the way people are starting to talk about this is a little bit weird because this always happens, right? There's always that straddle period for the generation, but this sounds like it's just like the definitive Xbox. Like if you have the PS5 Pro, this Xbox should be one step above all of that. But Jez does provide, I think, good context here, saying that all developers of shapes and sizes, Microsoft included, are building games to target the Switch 2, Steam Deck, and other low-end devices here. So like I talked about a little bit, where like these devices kind of all have a line connecting them, like the Series S can benefit from a Steam Deck version, just like a PC SKU can benefit heavily when Xbox has their next-gen console or PC hybrid out. There'll already be a SKU for that. This is something we talked about when we were looking at Xbox's financials from BGC, and we saw that 80% of developers that were surveyed wanted to make games for PC, but only 20% wanted to make games for Xbox. This looks like a problem, and it is a problem, but because Xbox is pivoting in this direction, basically it turns into you make a PC game, you make an Xbox game. So a lot of hardware manufacturers are getting a little bit more strategic. On top of this, we have more next-gen details here. He says, on that point, I'm told that Microsoft is also working on OEMs such as Asus and the other like to build a variety of options for next-gen Xbox gamers across a range of price points like the two Ally models. Despite rumors to the contrary, I'm told Microsoft still wants to make a first-party handheld eventually too, even if the traditional next-gen Xbox console is the focus for now. So I do wonder if this means, again, that the Xbox handheld is getting pushed back. I do think that traditional handheld needs to come out before PlayStation. That's why I was hoping, like, if Xbox has two SKUs here, I think they could have the chance to present something really interesting if they step out and they say, hey, here's our new premium console. It's $1,000. And yeah, it's a lot of money, but here's our next handheld. And it's not the Xbox Ally, but it's something a little bit more simple and limited, and it's native to us. And it is $700. Creating that price proposition is, I think, why the Steam Deck thrives so much. A lot of people forget that, like, when the Steam Deck, the highest model before the OLED came around, I think that was like $550, $600, something like that. Like, it was a decent price point. But because at the bottom end of the spectrum, you had the lowest SKU of the Steam Deck sitting at like $300 and something, it was very easy to look at that and go, oh, it goes from that low point to that high point. I could go for this low point, but based on what I'm going to get out of this, I'm going to go for the high-end experience here. I think Xbox needs that kind of dichotomy. I think that would be really good for them. Otherwise, they're going to run into the same rake that they stepped on with their price increase on games, trying to do $80 games when they tried to bump the price on Game Pass. I think if Xbox has a whoa price, a sticker shock moment, they need something to offset it. Even if they have to wait, they need something to offset it. Otherwise, though, there are more interesting bits of information here. He says, the Gen 10 Xbox platform is undoubtedly Microsoft's most ambitious gaming effort in history. Having Windows and Xbox teams collaborate so closely has huge potential, but also represents huge challenges. I wrote this week about how issues with Windows have often been hitting the Xbox Ally PC gaming handheld. It's not fun when it happens, but given it's giving Microsoft valuable data on how Windows behaves when it's treated more like a console embedded way. This is something I can attest to because as someone who reviewed, where is it here? You can probably see the dust on this thing, man. Yeah, you can. Hold on. Let's see if I can get a good angle on this. Can you see the dust on this thing? Yeah, I don't use this much. I don't know, man. I want to use it more, but it's just like the Steam Deck is so easy, so appealing, and I was not signing up to be a beta tester. I am very thankful that Xbox did send me a review unit for this. So to be fair, I did not pay for it, but I think that says a lot too, that I got this for free. I don't really find as much use for it compared to my Steam Deck OLED, which I paid for and use heavily here. Microsoft is testing a new NPU-powered highlights reel feature for its Xbox Ally X, which will take your gameplay clips and automatically generate a shareable video of your best gameplay moments. This feature is slated to drop in March 2026, all being well. If these new types of features land well with the Ally X, they'll find their way into the next-gen Xbox too. So again, this is why I said I didn't really sign up to be a beta tester, because this right here, this is what they're testing so that everything you see here will be incorporated into that next console. So this is like a real-time beta test. So if you pay close attention to this, you know what Xbox is expecting. Now, interestingly, these things have been dying lately, and Asus mentioned they have like a high repair quota on these. So there's been some tech issues with these here, which I find interesting and something worth tracking as Xbox moves to their own handheld here. They say Xbox aims to grow the entire industry all up, which in its view means breaking down arbitrary barriers, which we know, promoting cross-play multiplayer, cross-platform saves, and cross-platform purchasing. Xbox Play Anywhere is designed to facilitate this, but it's also why Microsoft's been bringing more games aggressively to Steam, PlayStation, and Switch 2 as well. They've also been opening up to the Xbox platform for developers, making it easier to submit and publish games, which we should hear more of at GDC 2026, which is not too far off now. For customers, an Xbox platform will not only let you choose what hardware experience you want, but what storefront you want to use. Epic recently told us it's ready to bring its own Epic Game Store to Xbox, and Steam is a clear shoe-in here. So yeah, what you're seeing here is a lot of different plans that are breaking things open. We've, of course, heard about this before, that Xbox is going full multi-platform, and that's why I think, again, that Halo should show up at the State of Play, because Xbox just needs to fully rip off that Band-Aid here. We'll go ahead and read the conclusion of this article. And again, please check out Jez's hard work here. He says, opening up Xbox's OEMs in the wider Windows ecosystem should help Xbox and its partners deliver more curated, tailor-made experiences for specific markets and across different types of users, form factors, and price points. Meeting players where they are now is the firm's primary aim, both in the terms of software and in terms of use case scenarios. In the future, you can expect a variety of Xbox devices of all shapes and sizes from an array of traditional Microsoft OEM PC partners. The fundamental vision for the original Xbox revolved around bringing Windows to the living room. In a way, we've come full circle here. It's Microsoft's most ambitious hardware plan since its inception of Windows itself, but also for Xbox, probably its most risky. And yeah, that's where we kind of land here. Is like, I like a risky Xbox. I like the idea of them taking chances. I mean, to me, if I were to pull just a couple of games off the shelf here of what risky Xbox meant for me, come on, shelf, rotate for me here. Death Row, really weird 90s style fighting game, but also a sports game. There's this one here, Blinks the Time Sweeper. This is Xbox really at their weirdest, where they introduce what they call a 4D action game. So I think that's Xbox at their weirdest. Voodoo Vince. I love this game. Really awesome 3D platformer. Xbox has some really awesome weird exclusives. To me, that's when Xbox is great, when they carry that kind of Sega ideology. But weird in their hardware plans, you got to admit, that's not really what they need right now. People wanted steady, simple from them. And when they ripped that Band-Aid off and went multi-platform, people stopped buying their hardware. So we'll see where things go. But interesting details here from Jez. Again, it all hinges on Windows. And Windows is in a spot where I just think it's going to get delayed. I don't think this thing comes out in 2027 ultimately. I'm glad that AMD CEO Lisa Su here seems to think that it's going to be coming out in 2027 and that they're ready to support it in 2027. But it looks to me like I think Microsoft will be the barrier here. And again, I think the longer this thing slips, the more that people at Microsoft might wonder why they're doing this. I wonder what the line is, where when they eventually cross it, there's no going back. Because at this point now, I could see a world where they could still, we're a year and change out, we're 2 years out, maybe even 3. Does Xbox and Microsoft want to keep spending money on this? Do they see a benefit to it when their software is doing well? That's the question that I think is still in flux as well, and why, like, if you're committing to Windows and gaming coming together, maybe that alone just solidifies that this console has to come out. But that's basically what this is at the end of the day. So your guess is as good as mine, I think, at the end of the day. But I want Xbox hardware to thrive. I want it to be excellent. I want to love Xbox like I did as a kid. 360 was obviously a huge system for me as well. I loved the Series X vision immediately. Like, I was like, okay, they invested in big first-party studios. They're going to make great exclusives. We know how that went. And then right when they started to get great exclusives, they just decided to go the opposite direction and tried to wrap the industry around their finger, saying like, oh no, this is antiquated now. What? Since when? Come on now. Anyway, that's what's going on with Xbox, man. I hope they pull it out, man. I hope they thrive. You know, at least for the games this year, I think they can thrive. And that's something.